Hey guys, just going to read you an article and then have you watch a little video about a uniquely Canadian animal, the narwhal. You don't have to search far and wide to find narwhals these days. The so-called unicorns of the sea are plastered on everything from kids' pajamas and lunchboxes to plush toys and Lego sets. But seeing the animals in the wild is something else entirely. As a true Arctic whale, narwhals can be found in the frigid waters of Canada and Greenland. And while the male sport spiraled 8-foot-long tusks that push their total body length towards the size of a school bus, these conspicuous looking creatures aren't fond of the limelight. They really are an elusive whale, says Kirsten Ladry, an Arctic ecologist at the University of Washington who studied narwhals for about 20 years. They're very skittish, and I guess I'd say sneaky. They startle easily, so they're not a whale that's going to aggregate around your boat or anything like that for whale watching. This makes seeing a narwhal in its natural habitat difficult, but not impossible, providing you know where to look. Life on the edge. As mammals, narwhals must periodically return to the water's surface to breathe, and while they can swim far beneath the ice floes in search of Greenland halibut, cod, shrimp, and squid, their distances are limited by how many openings there are in the ice. That edge where ice meets water makes for the ideal narwhal sighting spot, says David Briggs, an expedition leader for Arctic Kingdom, a travel company specializing in Arctic safaris, private polar expeditions, and logistics. They're on a migratory path, and that path is interrupted by this ice, says Briggs, who's worked in the region for a decade. And so, while they're at the edge, they continue to feed and wait for the ice to break up. Further so they can get down to the inlets where they calf or have babies. Seeing an actual narwhal then means snowmobiling out to the ice's edge and sitting in a comfortable chair with a pair of binoculars for hours or even days. The good news is that plenty other species flock to the ice edge too, and visitors might see everything from a thick-billed murre, black-legged kittiwakes, and northern fulmars to beluga whales, polar bears, walruses, and 3 species of seals. A singular sound. Of course, those who make the trek and have the patience to be rewarded with a life-changing narwhal experience. According to Briggs, there's nothing like hearing the psh of a narwhal blowing for the first time. The sound indicates that the animal has just exhaled after a deep dive underwater. As with other whales, sometimes you can spot flecks of water and mist in the air as narwhals surface. And on a really good day, you might even spot a pod of 50 to 100 narwhals surfacing together, he says. Once the pod comes within about a football field's length of the edge, they'll pause to perform a series of what Briggs describes as loud whirling breathing exercises. When he attempts to mimic the noise over the phone, it sounds a bit like Darth Vader has just conferenced in. It's just amazing to sit there and listen to that sound, Briggs says. As the mottled skinned whales come closer to the ice edge, there are also opportunities to dip a kayak into the water and even go for a snorkel. Scuba gear isn't recommended, says Briggs, because the animals don't like the bubbles it creates. It's pretty magical, said Todd Mintz, a certified public accountant who's gotten into the water with narwhals several times while on expedition with Arctic Kingdom. Mintz, who does nature photography on the side, says there's just something about the way whales turn their eye up to you as they glide by. Any animal that seems to look you almost in the same way you're looking at it, he says, it's quite amazing. Because narwhals are already wary of humans, every effort should be made to avoid scaring the animals off of productive hunting grounds or impacting their movements in negative ways. Another thing to consider when planning any trip to the Arctic, the impact your trip could have on animals, environment, and planet. But when done responsibly, Arctic expeditions can benefit local communities, national parks, and the animals that inhabit them by generating vital income. Before booking, ask your outfitter what steps they take to mitigate the impacts of Arctic travel and how they interact with communities nearby. And be sure to read reviews from previous travelers for clues as to whether those claims are legitimate. Both experts noted that travelers hoping to spot narwhals should have realistic expectations. I've spent a month in the field, like camping on a beach in places we know where narwhals live, and not seen one, says Ladry. You're really lucky if you see one. Unfortunately, the global coronavirus has made spotting a narwhal in the wild more difficult. See you later.